After a successful WrestleMania with main event Jey Uso reaching the apex and John Cena becoming 17-time world champion, we now go to the Raw after WrestleMania. And the landscape is about to change forever. Finn Balor comes out and cuts a promo about how the Judgment Day need to get back on track. But then we go to the back and we see both JD McDonough and Carlito laid out while Dominic Mysterio is running away. Everyone is confused as to what the hell's going on. And then the Hurt Business, Bobby Lashley, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander all come out on stage and they beat the holy hell out of Finn Balor. And after a beatdown, well, it's clear. The Hurt Business is back in the WWE. Now you might be thinking, how did we pull this off? Let's just say I was able to, strong arm Tony Khan into doing what I want. With this brutal attack on the Judgment Day want revenge. So, at Backlash, the Hurt Business will make their in-ring return as they take on the Judgment Day. And at Backlash, the match is a complete squash. Each member of Hurt Business eliminates Judgment Day one by one, until Dominic Mysterio is the only man left and is left to just get obliterated. Judgment Day are completely destroyed and squashed by the Hurt Business as they're back on top, and now the Hurt Business are the dominant faction on Monday Night Raw. On the following Raw, MVP comes out to represent the Hurt Business. He addresses the future of the group as he is the spokesperson, and he has worked out a deal with Adam Pearce, the general manager. After the impressive performance by the Hurt Business, Cedric and Shelton will get tag team title shots for the World Tag Titles against the Viking Raiders, and he wants the crown jewel, the World Heavyweight Championship held by Jey Uso, who beat Gunther at Mania 41. In order for Bobby Lashley to get a world title shot, he and MVP are going to team up to take on the team of Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. Jey Uso was desperate to find a partner, and Sami Zayn was the only guy that would step up. I guess social media isn't the only people that dislike Jey Uso. And at Night of Champions, we start out with the World Tag Team titles, the Hurt Business versus the Viking Raiders. And in the end, Shelton Benjamin takes down Ivar with a T-bone suplex, and somehow Cedric is able to hit the lumbar check onto the big boy and pin him for the 3. The Hurt Business have captured the World Tag Team titles in their second match. And in the main event, MVP and Bobby Lashley team up to take on the team of Sami Zayn and World Heavyweight Champion Jey Uso. Jey Uso hits the spear on Bobby Lashley, but MVP distracts Jey Uso. He gets knocked off the apron. Him and Sami go in the crowd, but this distraction allows Bobby to recover and lock on the Hurt Lock. And despite Jey Uso trying his best, he eventually passes out to the Hurt Lock, and the Hurt Business once again pick up the win. And with this win, Bobby Lashley is now going to be challenging Jey Uso for the World Championship at Money in the Bank. After Money in the Bank, once again, MVP comes out to represent the Hurt Business, and he gloats about how well the Hurt Business did. They won the tag team titles and they crushed Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. And now, at Money in the Bank, Bobby Lashley will once again be world champion in WWE. But main event Jey Uso comes out and confronts MVP. And Jey Uso, in layman's terms, tells him, listen, just because you distracted me doesn't mean shit. At Money in the Bank, I'm going to prove why I am the best in the world and why I beat Gunther. I am number 1 on this brand, and there's no way that Bobby Lashley could stop me. MVP distracts Jey Uso, and Bobby Lashley comes out of the crowd, grabs Jey Uso, pulls him out of the ring, and spears him down. As Bobby Lashley is standing over Jey Uso is starting to lose himself a bit. He's gotten beaten down by Lashley twice, and he talks to Sami Zayn about it, his only friend, and Sami basically tells him, listen dude, I believe in you. You beat Gunther. You beat the world champion, the ring general. You are the world champion. You are the face of this brand. Now, Money in the Bank, at Money in the Bank, Jay, you will prove to the world why you are the world champion and prove that it's not a fluke. And on the final Raw before Money in the Bank, MVP once again comes out and he has a simple message. He says that there's going to be a new member of the Hurt Business that will join us very, very soon. And it is going to change the WWE forever. And then he leaves. Who could be the new member of the Hurt Business that could change the group in Raw? And now we're at Money in the Bank. We're going to highlight 3 matches on this card. I mean, that's usually how many matches are on our WWE card these days. The first is a rematch for the World Tag Team titles. The Hurt Business, Cedric and Shelton, defend against the Viking Raiders. And in the end, the Hurt Business once again retain their tag titles, and that's it for the Viking Raiders. No more shots for now. Although the tag division is pretty mediocre, so we'll have to figure it out. Also, the winner of the Money in the Bank ladder match ends up being Dirty Dominic Mysterio. What a pick, WWE. Great job. But now it's time for the main event. Bobby Lashley, the World Heavyweight Champion with MVP in his corner, takes on main event Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. The 2 men go back and forth, putting on a surprisingly good match that puts the social media heads to sleep. Jey Uso goes to the outside and takes down MVP with a spear after he tries to interfere. Jey Uso is hyped up. Lashley is able to lock on the Hurt Lock, but Jey gets out of the Hurt Lock, breaking it. Jey goes for the spear and he nails it onto Bobby Lashley, and he's going to go to the top rope for one more splash, the same way he beat Gunther. But then, Oba Femi throws a steel chair into Jey Uso's head, grabs him, pulls him out of the ring, and then powerbombs him. And then Oba throws him back in the ring, and Bobby Lashley capitalizes. Lashley once again locks on the Hurt Lock, and Jey cannot fight out of it. Bobby Lashley wins the World Heavyweight Championship, and more importantly, Oba Femi is now part of the Hurt Business. The landscape has truly changed in WWE. On the following Raw, we see both Bobby Lashley and Oba Femi come out at the same time, and Bobby Lashley this time is going to explain the reason why Oba has joined. Bobby explains that he wants the Hurt Business to be stronger than it's ever been. And he's been watching Oba Femi in NXT dominate, and he thinks that Oba Femi is a perfect fit for the group, and with the help of Oba Femi, the Hurt Business will literally be unstoppable. And Oba Femi is immediately treated as a big deal as he gets put into a fatal 4-way to determine who will challenge Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam. Oba Femi dominates and is able to win the match after his big powerbomb, and we get a big dream match, Braun Breaker versus Oba Femi at SummerSlam. But despite the Hurt Business being on a high, Jey Uso comes back and he wants one more shot at Bobby Lashley. But Bobby Lashley wants to be done with Jey Uso after this, so it's made into an ambulance match. So the loser doesn't come back. And now we arrive at SummerSlam. Now let's get the first thing out of the way. The World Tag Team titles are not being defended. Why? Well, because Logan Paul and Travis Scott are wrestling, and that's more important than the tag team division on Raw. So let's get into the actual matches that matter. First up, Oba Femi challenges Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship with MVP in Oba's corner. The 2 men go to absolute war, as you'd expect, between these 2 beasts of men. But Oba gets caught in the Steiner recliner, but Braun, I guess, loses his brain and rope break. Braun is angry and he punches the referee, but the referee doesn't disqualify him. And then MVP yells at Breaker and distracts him so that Oba Femi can come back. Oba nails Braun with the clothesline and then a big pop-up powerbomb and pins Braun Breaker for the 3. Oba Femi wins the Intercontinental Championship and like his 3rd match on the main roster. Yeah, this guy's getting pushed to the moon, isn't he? And then the co-main event, the main event of this show is John Cena versus Roman Reigns for the WWE title, probably. Bobby Lashley defends against Jey Uso in an ambulance match. The 2 men fight their ass off to make sure they don't get in the ambulance. But in the end, Jey Uso is not able to overcome the Almighty. Lashley goes a bit ballistic. He locks on the Hurt Lock until Jey just gives up. Then he destroys Jey with a shovel and hits him like 10 times with the shovel. He flexes, long darts Jey Uso into the ambulance and shuts the door. And that's it. Bobby Lashley retains the World Heavyweight Championship as Jey Uso is taken off, probably not to be seen again for the next 6 months. After the match is when things get a bit interesting. As Bobby Lashley is celebrating, Gunther makes his return to the WWE. Ever since he lost his world title at WrestleMania, he's been MIA. But now he's back and he's looking to challenge Bobby Lashley for that championship that he lost. Gunther comes out and explains why he's returned at this point. Gunther was embarrassed at the fact that he lost to Jey Uso clean, and he had to leave and try to better himself and become stronger as a man. So, when Jey Uso is gone, Gunther returns. When Jey Uso lost the World Championship, Gunther realized it's time to come back, and now he wants to fight Bobby Lashley, a guy who he actually respects in comparison to Jey Uso. While the respect isn't mutual between Lashley and Gunther, they are going to fight at Payback and the World Championship will be on the line. At Payback, Obafemi decides to have an open challenge as he doesn't view anybody on the roster as an equal to him. Rey Mysterio ends up accepting the challenge, and despite Rey Mysterio trying his best, in the end, it's not enough, and he falls to Obafemi. Obafemi is still your champion, but Breaker comes out of nowhere and spears Obafemi multiple times to take him down, wanting to make sure that he knows that he's not done with him. In the main event of Payback, Bobby Lashley and Gunther go toe-to-toe for the World Heavyweight Championship, and the match ends in a fucky way. Gunther hits the powerbomb and the clothesline from hell, and it looks like he's going to end Lashley, but MVP breaks it up. He breaks it up, and then Gunther gets beat down by the Hurt Business. This leads to Breaker coming out and saving Gunther, a man that he has a history with. And Breaker and Gunther are now a team, it seems. After the events of Payback, Breaker and Gunther form an alliance of sorts. They don't like each other, but they have a common enemy and they want their championships back. But the Hurt Business decline. Lashley declines and says, hey, if you want a shot at me and Femi, you're going to have to go through our other Hurt Business friends. So on Raw, Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander will fight Gunther and Braun Breaker for, they'll take them on, and if they win, they get to fight Femi and Lashley. And I guess unsurprisingly, the team of Gunther and Braun Breaker are able to overcome the World Tag Team Champions, and they get their match at Fastlane to take on Obafemi and Bobby Lashley. I know, booking the World Tag Team Champions to lose? I mean, what kind of fool would book that, right? What kind of moron would have their Tag Team Champions get defeated like this? And at a generic, boring Fastlane event that no one is going to remember, except for one match, Obafemi and Bobby Lashley versus Gunther and Braun Breaker. After Breaker and Obafemi fight to the back, it leaves Gunther and Bobby Lashley. Lashley wants to go for his spear, but Gunther clotheslines him down and then hits him with not one, but two power bombs in a row, and Gunther pins Bobby Lashley. Gunther and Breaker win, but this is a no title match, so no titles change hands, but this is a big deal as Bobby Lashley is taking his first loss since coming back. So the next pay-per-view we have is the Survivor Series, and I think you know where this is going. On Raw, we finally get to defend the World Tag Team titles again. I know, it's been forever, but yeah, they're defending the tag titles against the LWO, which... okay. But shockingly, one of the members of the Hurt Business gets distracted because the War Raiders are back, and their music hits. This distraction allows one member of the LWO to do a roll-up pin, roll him around the ring, and get the 3 count. The LWO win the World Tag Team titles thanks to a distraction from the War Raiders. And then after they win the titles, the War Raiders come out and beat the crap out of Cedric and Shelton. I think you know where this is going. With the Survivor Series coming up, the general manager, Adam Pearce, decides to make a War Games match. Gunther, Braun Breaker, and the War Raiders versus the Hurt Business. Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander, and Obafemi. And after a brutal War Games match between these two teams, Bobby Lashley is able to hit a Dominator on a Braun Breaker, and the Hurt Business cleared the field. Bobby Lashley pins Braun Breaker for the 3, and the Hurt Business win the War Games match. What does this mean? Well, all 4 of these chumps are not getting their title shots. Sorry, not sorry. And to add the cherry on top, the Hurt Business, Cedric, and Shelton get another crack at the World Tag titles held by the LWO, and they win them back. By the end of the year, the Hurt Business return, and they all are champions. It's the new year, and that means that John Cena has officially retired. Good. He's a sellout. Screw him. And MVP comes out to start out the first Raw on Monday Night Raw. And MVP makes a big announcement. He announces that they are going to introduce their first woman into the Hurt Business. Next week, MVP will reveal it all. So on the next week's Raw, MVP once again comes out and introduces the new member of the Hurt Business, Jade Cargill. Has joined the Hurt Business, and her decision is once again kind of like Obafemi's in the fact that she believes that with her help, they will dominate the women's division. With her help and MVP's advice, she will take over the Raw women's division. And the division is pretty stacked when you have women like Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, and others. Thanks to MVP's politicking, he was able to get Jade Cargill a world championship match against current champion Rhea Ripley. As for the rest of the Hurt Business, the world tag team title scene is still pretty rough, but Hurt Business are still champions. Yay. Obafemi, I guess, fought Karrion Kross, and, well, you know how that went. And for Bobby Lashley's new challenger, a shock happens. Jey Uso, after being gone since SummerSlam and being shelved, returns to Monday Night Raw and comes after Bobby Lashley. He's able to spear down Bobby Lashley and then make his declaration that he wants another crack at the Almighty. But Adam Pearce is getting kind of tired of Jey Uso, and he's like, look, you've lost twice to Bobby Lashley. If you lose again, you're done. No more title shots as long as Bobby Lashley is champion. And that could be forever, so yeah. And at the Royal Rumble, well, firstly, there's actually some drama in the Hurt Business. Obafemi wants to enter the Royal Rumble, and Bobby Lashley tries to dissuade him in doing so. He does not want Oba to challenge him. But Oba puts his foot down and says, no, I'm going to enter the Royal Rumble. And if I win, we'll see what happens. This angers Bobby Lashley, but MVP is able to calm him down so he can focus on his match with Jey Uso. So let's start with the Women's World Championship. Jade Cargill of the Hurt Business versus Rhea Ripley. And after a 25-minute match, which is shocking for Jade Cargill, Jade Cargill actually nails the Jaded and pins Rhea Ripley for the 3 with a pin that looks better than Rhea's. Point is, Jade Cargill wins the Women's World Championship. I guess joining the Hurt Business has its perks, doesn't it? Speaking of the women, Becky Lynch ends up winning the Women's Royal Rumble, and I think it's kind of clear where she's going to be going. Now let's focus on the men. Firstly, the World Championship. Bobby Lashley, Jey Uso. 3. With the stipulation if Jey loses, he can't challenge for the championship again. Jey Uso spears down Bobby Lashley and then does the Uso splash, but Bobby Lashley kicks out. The dude shouldn't trade blow for blow until Bobby Lashley hits a spear, but Jey survives that. Jey rolls out of the ring and Lashley does a dive over the top rope. Dominator throws Jey back in the ring and then locks on the Hurt Lock to make Jey once again submit. Bobby Lashley retains the World Championship, and that is it for Jey Uso. He's done. Over. No more. Unless he goes to fight Cody Rhodes or something. But now it's time for the main event, the Royal Rumble. Who ends up winning the Royal Rumble match? There's a lot of men that could win, including Oba, but unfortunately for Mr. Femi, he does not win the Royal Rumble, and it ends up being CM Punk. I know, it's in Saudi Arabia, and CM Punk is there. Just deal with it. The point is, CM Punk wins the Rumble, and he's now going to WrestleMania to get his WrestleMania main event. After a few weeks of anticipation of who CM Punk is going to choose, it looks like it might be Cody Rhodes, but let's just say a final boss politicked his way into getting another WrestleMania main event. So CM Punk decides to choose Bobby Lashley and challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship. But with the Elimination Chamber coming up and the 2 world title matches basically locked in, also the Women's World title is locked in as Rhea Ripley invokes her rematch clause. What is going to be defended inside the Elimination Chamber? Well, it ends up being Obafemi's Intercontinental Championship, and Oba is not happy about this at all. He says that if he should lose, it should be on 1v1, not some bullshit Elimination Chamber, but there's nothing that MVP could do. MVP said he tried his best, but Adam Pearce wouldn't budge. So at Elimination Chamber, Jade Cargill once again retains the Women's World title against Rhea Ripley, and Becky Lynch decides to go after Jade Cargill, so there's your Women's World title match. And the main event is for the Intercontinental title in the Elimination Chamber. The chamber match is stacked as Obafemi defends against Penta, Seth Rollins, Gunther, Braun Breaker, and AJ Styles. The final 2 of the chamber end up being Obafemi and AJ Styles after Penta gets eliminated by Obafemi. After the 2 men go back and forth, in the end, AJ Styles is somehow able to hit the Styles Clash onto Obafemi and pin him for the 3. AJ Styles wins the Intercontinental Championship inside of the Elimination Chamber, and Oba is not happy with this result, but he accepts it on the fact that MVP tried to lobby for the Intercontinental title. However, the Hurt Business is about to fracture as Obafemi finds out that MVP lobbied for Bobby Lashley not to defend his championship, not Obafemi. He threw Obafemi to the wolves and he lost his championship. Now that Obafemi knows this, he knows exactly what he wants to do. We finally arrive at WrestleMania 42. There are 4 matches we will talk about because they pertain to the Hurt Business, and this is their story, not Cody's or Dwayne's. The first match is a crazy-ass ladder match for the World Tag Team titles. The Hurt Business have to defend against some crazy teams. On one end, you have Ricochet and Chris Jericho. Alright. The team of Braun Breaker and Gunther, who are now teaming up once again. And the weird team of Bad Bunny and Steve Austin. Hey, I don't make these teams. It's just randomized, okay? And after a crazy, chaotic ladder match, Team AEW actually win the Tag Team Championships. And then the game crashes. So, I guess the Hurt Business retained their titles, because that's not correct. The second match at WrestleMania for the Hurt Business is Obafemi challenging AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Championship. And just like Elimination Chamber, AJ Styles does a pop-up Styles Clash this time, and pins Obafemi for the 3. AJ Styles retains, but despite this loss, this would not be the end of Obafemi. In fact, he's got a plan. Third match, we have Jade Cargill versus Becky Lynch for the Women's World Championship. And despite Becky Lynch's best attempts, she was not able to overcome Jade Cargill as she gets hit with Jaded, and that's it. Jade Cargill retains the Women's World Championship. And now it's time for the main event, Night 1. Bobby Lashley versus CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. CM Punk goes for the go to sleep, but it's blocked by Lashley. But Lashley locks on the Hurt Lock, and after struggling for a bit, CM Punk is able to break out of it. Bobby Lashley takes down CM Punk and looks for a spear. Obafemi comes out of the crowd once again and throws a chair at Bobby Lashley. This angers Bobby Lashley. He wants to go after him, but Obafemi stuns him. CM Punk is able to grab him in a GTS and hit it, and he pins Bobby Lashley for the 3. CM Punk wins the World Heavyweight Championship, and Bobby Lashley got screwed by Obafemi. After the match, Obafemi destroys Bobby Lashley, obliterates him, and Obafemi stands over Bobby Lashley and says the Hurt Business is dead. And after WrestleMania, Obafemi would destroy the Hurt Business member by member by member, until there was only one more person left. Bobby Lashley tried to come back after Mania to try, but after all the other members have been destroyed, Obafemi and Bobby Lashley would have one more match on Raw, and Obafemi would go over Lashley. Thus, the destruction of the Hurt Business has been complete by the one man that they recruited into the group. Then, with this momentum, he carries it into winning a World Championship from CM Punk, and Obafemi is now the face of Raw, while leaving the Hurt Business in his wake. And that is what happens if the Hurt Business came back. Thanks for watching and take care.